Year 3. Welcome back. We are going to continue with the next session, and in this session we're going to look at the receipting and the receipt corrections. Again, the Learning Center, we looked now through appointments, right, for the billing corrections. We looked at the claim administration, and just to recap on the claim administration, please make sure admin people, admin personnel, or if you do reception and admin, or even as doctors, that you look at your claim history screen on the EDI, GoodX switch, claim history on the MedEps. There you will see all your claims. Look at your errors, look at to send claims, because if you do not click on them and fix it and send them, they will become stale claims. Look at your switch rejection claims, look at your medical aid rejections claims. Please make sure that you need to understand, when do I reverse, when do I redo, when do I resubmit, and ultimately when do I resolve my claims. Now the claims went through to the medical aid, and the next phase is obviously to show that the patient must pay depending on what was short paid by the medical aids, and also we wait for the remittance advisors, or as we call them, the RAs from the medical aids, or nowadays the ERAs, the electronic remittances, that comes in from the medical aids directly. So now we're at the point where we've done all our work from reception, in the sense of opening my files, importing my files from the medical aids. The patient went through the booked arrived process. Doctor or the nurse treated the patient, we billed the patient, we submitted the claim to the medical aid. So now we followed up the rejections to make sure that if it was rejected, I know when to reverse or resubmit, and when to redo the claim and get it back to the medical aid as quickly as possible. Ultimately get to a paper claim where you simply print the statement and attach it in your emails. So now we get to the point where, okay, the medical aid rejected a small amount because the patient was still there when I paid, when we claimed the invoice, and now the patient's going to pay the shortfall or the short payment from the medical aid. So I'm going to do a receipt directly from the diary for the patient's amount. It could be the partial payments because of rejections, or it could be the full amount because there was no funds. So either way, the patient will pay, and then in certain cases, then the claims definitely will go through to the medical aid. Patient will walk out with no payment because we are submitting a claim to the medical aid and waiting for payment, and then we wait for the manual remittance to come in. So I'm going to show you a manual receipt, and then we're going to discuss the ERAs, the electronic receipts. And again, the same principle here. When I work with receipts, like in my invoices, I do not use journals to fix my receipts. If I posted a receipt incorrectly, I need to go and do a receipt written back. I do not use journals to correct my receipts. The only time, again, I use a journal is when I do bad debts, small amounts, write-offs, handovers, or something like that. Okay, so here on the Learning Center, also you will see receipts item level and invoice level. I will explain the two in detail. I'm going to talk about the cash register. That's for my site, when I mentioned this before earlier, from the navigator, where we work with a lot of pay points. So that's typically my dispensing GPs, or sites where there's a lot of card payments that I want to manage, and I want a cash up, and at the end of the day that must balance back to the float. And that's typically what I will be using the cash register for. And then we look at our ERAs, our electronic remittance advice, where the medical aid does not send to me anymore a remittance advice via email. It comes in directly, like the claims, directly into GoodX, and I need to go and import that ERA and post that ERA. So that's what we're going to focus on now, is now receipting, and once we're done with that, we're going to look at the receipt corrections, and then we're going to take the last break and we're going to look at our debt management, and then end with our reports. Okay, so let's look at our receipts thing. So again, I would go to my diary. So I would open up my GoodX system. I would go to my diary. So the first place where I will typically do my receipts is from the diary, because I can bill the patient from here, send a claim from here, do the receipt from here, and print the statement from here. And I can email the statement also, like you can see in the right hand side from the sidebar, or I can directly go into his account or his file and generate the statement by printing it from there. Also, the shortcut for statements, if you right click appointment, you will see here print statements direct, Control S, It means if I'm standing on that booking and I press Control S, I can immediately generate a statement for that patient. So please make sure that you know your shortcuts and all is in that right click function on the system. Okay, so now let's see, this patient owes me 906.55. I want to take the money from the patient, so he's back at reception. He just was a doctor, we waited for doctor to bill. I clicked on refresh until I see, yes, there's 905.95 outstanding, the total, and the patient is 906.55. I want to take the full amount because all the funds were depleted, all this is a private patient. I will go here to receipts and I will say patient receipt. The moment I select patient receipt, will show me the cash books, and from reception we work with cash and card. That's typically the only one. Admin will work most probably with the rest. If you do work at reception with the EFTs, then you will also use the electronic receipts as well. So this patient is going to pay by cash. So I'm going to select cash and I'm going to say OK. And then it's today's date. The description is thank you, or whatever you put in here will print on the statement. And in this desktop app or application, currently we do not print receipts unless you have a receipt printer, and then we use the cash register for it. Yes, you can go from account inquiry to reprint the receipt, but it will only print like a small slip printer in the top left corner of the A4 paper. So you rather print a statement that shows ideally also the receipt with the receipt number on the statement with a 0 amount in total. Otherwise, you will write out a manual receipt, and if you still do that, you're more than welcome to put in that manual receipt number here in the reference, and also write your account number, DEP 60, on the actual physical receipt of the patient as well. As you can see here, my booking is Mr. de Klerk and his data number 60. So how is he paying? He's paying by cash. I'm going to skip my reference, going to skip my code. How much is he paying? He's paying me 906.55, and that's why the diary is so nice, because I can see all the information from the diary. So 906.55, so I put in my amount first. Now when I tab out of the amount, it will go to the account, and now I know my patient is number 60, and I can just, technically speaking, put in number 60. If I'm not sure, then I could actually search by just tapping and then go on the surname of the patient and try and find him from out of the system. So I know it's number 60, there it is, declared private patient is 906.55, and I will select it, notes, and it will show me, okay, debtor number 60, it's 906.50, it's the same as the amount there at the top right, and I put in here and this amount. Here at the bottom I will see it's the Clerk P, Mr., and he owes me 906.55. Now I will see here between dates, auto allocate and suppress. If my auto allocate is on, the system will take the outstanding balance in consideration to the amount that I put in. If those two match, the system will auto allocate. If those two amounts do not match, you need to manually specify which code will be paid. Also, and under the manual here, we talk about item level and invoice level. So what we mean by this is item level, invoice level. Item level is per code. So it will show you the consultation, the sterile tray, the needles, the syringe, the web call, the glove, like the Mediclade will also show it under remittances. If it's a private patient and you do not care how you're going to allocate it, then the invoice level will be more suitable for those scenarios. But typically in the medical industry, we work on item level. So if I'm now going to tab here from this second screen, so this screen is a free part. The top part is my description, my total amount. The second part shows me what patient is paying and what is being paid, because one person can pay here multiple accounts. So now I tab again from this amount, I will press tab again, and then it will open up the actual item level detail. And because that tick is not on, it says press 0, it will show all the outstanding lines. Not just the outstanding lines, even the lines that was credited and even the lines that already was paid. So a nice option would be to maybe also put on that, so press 0, and then I put a 906.55 or 50, let's say 50, because they short pay with 5 cents. And now I can, and because it's 55 with 50, the system did not auto allocate. Now I have to double click if I want to allocate it manually, or I could just enter to do the same at the end of the day. There's obviously an option here that says automark patient, but be very careful of any of the automark functionalities. Automark will start at the oldest outstanding codes and work its way down. And if there's nothing more to allocate, it will put the rest to unlinked. Whatever balance, it will transfer to the unlinked line here at the bottom, and that means it's an unlinked credit that's on the patient's file. So be careful for that scenarios. So if the amount was in full exactly the same, and I had 1906.55, the system would automatically use the auto allocate because your outstanding amount matches exactly what's outstanding on the account. And the system will allocate it for you, and you just press F2, 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 F2 4 times to post the receipt. If it was a short payment, 906, then the system will not do the auto allocation. You need to specify where the allocation must go to. The short payment will now be under 0147 for the emergency, and this is where I can now write off the 55 cents if I don't want the patient to pay for that 55 cents because of the short payment from the medical aid. Because the medical aid rejected 55 cents, immediately the patient can pay for it, or we just simply write it off. And here I can decide to do discount or the write-off. If it's an overpayment, then we will look at the unlinked receipt. And the unlinked receipts, you must be very careful. It will happen. When do we have unlinked receipts? Is when patient pays deposits on certain procedures in beforehand, or they pay more than what's under outstanding account. So I'm going to let this patient pay in full. I'm just going to correct my amount. So I'm going to put in total amount as 906.55, tab, debt number 60, 906.55. It's set up for auto allocate and suppress. So I'm going to say yes, auto allocate it, then I'm going to press done, done, F2 again, exit, F2, post, F2. And now that amount will change. Just refresh, and you'll see the total outstanding on Mr. Declarant is now 0. Account is paid in full. If I go to his account, now we'll see there was my invoice of 850, plus there was an amount for the medication of 55.76, and that was why there was a total of 906.55. So that's why the receipt was 906.55, but it paid this consultation plus all the consumables plus the patient's medication for the Panado, because I'm a dispensing GP. So now the account is 0. So let's do another patient, for instance. This patient here is outstanding 650. So patient comes in, doctor goes in. We're going to do the billing. Just load the procedure. IC10 code 0190 400. We're going to post it. So now that is also showing treated, and he owes me 1030. I just simply stand on that, and I do not need to stand on that booking, because this receipt means I can capture any patient that walks in the door and they want to pay. Doesn't matter if they've been here a week ago or a month ago. I just go to patient receipts. I know this is date 143. So I'm just saying this is going to pay by card. So I select my card. It is again today's date. He's paying by card. Thank you. And also your card slip prints out a unique reference code on your credit card slip that you give to the patient and you keep for yourself. You can also put in that reference in here if that is required. Otherwise, please always remember, take your card payment first before you do the receipt in GoodX. Make sure the payment cleared and was not declined, and then you capture the receipt in your GoodX system. Put in your receipt number if there is a receipt number involved. Again, this is now by credit card payment. He pays the full account, so that is 1030. What account number is currently on is DEP 143, so I can pick that up, 143, and he's paying everything in total. So I'm just going to say tab, and the system auto allocates the lines for you because the outstanding amount equals the amount the patient is paying. and then I just press F2, 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 F2 again, F2 once, twice, third, and then the fourth time to post it. And again, if I refresh the screen, immediately that patient is also now 0. If I go into his account inquiries, I will also see there was my invoice of 400, he paid a 400, and there was the invoice of 629, and it was paid by credit card 629, so that's why there's a total of 1030 that was paid. Also from account inquiries, at any time I can go to my statements by going to here print, statements view normal, and here I can print a full outstanding account, only the outstanding amounts. The null balance means give me everything on this patient, even if it was paid. And then between dates, so this is typically very nice if I print statements for last year and I only want to print between certain days, then I can email a statement to my member, I can email it to the patient, and I can email it to the medical aid by specifying the address. So I would select, for instance, that one, and then I would say print, and then I should be able to see my full statement. Of course, he paid in full, and my receipt will also show on this statement. Okay, so that's my patient receipt, and usually we do it by item level as a standard because we want to link the payment to the actual codes that was billed. You can do a invoice receipt as well, but remember, invoice receipt will always start with the first code and auto allocate the items as it goes to the bottom of that billing. So please make sure if you use your invoices, it's typically a site where they always pay in full, otherwise we will start from the first item and move our way down for the auto allocating of that. And remember, an unlinked receipt, you can do an unlinked receipt. An unlinked receipt means the patient paid before any consultation or billing take place, and once you've done the billing, then you should link that unlinked receipt back to the invoice. Please, if you have that kind of scenarios, make sure you get your FCL involved so they can train you exactly in how to work with an unlinked receipt. I will see if we have time to just quickly run through that as we go along. So that's patient receipts. It should be very simple in that sense. If there's a patient outstanding amount, and if the patient was billed while the patient was there by a doctor or nurse, I should be able to just quickly go into receipts and capture this. Again, this one is very simple. Deb 142 905.5. I say patient receipt. It's going to pay card. So I'm going to say okay, and I'm just going to fill in all my details. He pays by card, and he pays 905.95, and it's data 142. It's an auto allocate. The system allocates it for me because he's paying the full outstanding amount, and I press F2, 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 F2. And that's how quickly you should be able to do a receipt from the patient's point of view. And remember, it depends on what is outstanding of the amounts that you will put in. And remember, in this receipt, I can already write off any small balances, or I can do discount, depending on what I received from the patient. So the same I can do from my MedEp side. From my MedEps, I've got receipts, and there's my patient receipt item level. So here I would go into cash receipts, exactly the same screen, say okay, and here you will run through the same process with the account number. You will search either the file or enter the account number and capture the patient's remittance receipt. So that is the patient receipts. If there's any questions, just ask your FCL or contact GoodX for additional training on this. Now we're going to look at our medical aid receipts. So how do I capture a medical aid remittance, or the RAs that was emailed to you, and you have to print it out to see that remittance, and then you will capture that into the GoodX system. So how do I do that? Also, I go into my GoodX, I go to MedEps. You do not typically capture your medical aid receipts from the diary. You will only capture your patient's receipts from here. Then I go to my MedEps and I go to receipts, and there you will see medical aid receipts, and there's my remittance ERA that I will get to a bit later. So there I will go to medical aid receipts. Then I will go to how was this paid into my account, EFT. So I will select my EFT cash book, and I will say okay. I will select the month this happened in, and I will put in the date when the payment was made into your bank account. The correct way to capture remittance is to first check your bank statement. If it's on the bank statement, then you capture the remittance. If you are in a position that you do not have access to the doctor's bank account or the bank statement, or someone that can give you that information in Excel or a printout, then you can use the date of the remittance. So I put in the date. Here I will typically put in Discovery made a payment on the 2nd of, because that date can differ from what on your bank might be. So I put in the date, and even there's page numbers in certain scenarios can be loaded as well. It was paid electronically into my bank account, and I paid into your bank account 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000. From Discovery, you will get a bulk payment, and that's the payment amount I capture in my amount. So this amount is your total from the whole batch that was deposited by EFT into GoodX into your, from the Remittances into your account, your bank account. So I put in the total, and then I tap, and then on your remittance, once you print it out, then the Remittances will specify exactly on this patient, the Remittances paid 1,000 rand. On this patient, they pay 2,000 rand, and then they will exactly show you on the remittance which codes, which patients, which dates have been paid. And you will fill it in according to that remittance. You will not break up your remittance and 10 small payments. You will take this 10,000 rand and you will allocate here under the account, you will allocate your 10 different patients. And you must balance back to that 10,000 in order to allocate this remittance. So now we'll start this, and let's say we're going to take that 16,000. That's an easy one for maybe now. I just want to see if it's going to work. 15, that's Medicaid outstanding, 6,000, and I paid the full amount. That's easy. So if I put in the full amount and what is outstanding, and the auto allocate tick is on, the system will do the allocation for you. And it will mark the necessary codes that is still outstanding according to the GoodX system. If you're not happy with the allocation, you can change that allocation. So if that's a typical full one, that's a full payment, that should be very easy. I click on done and I go now. So now I've got 3,900 left of the total of 10,000. So who's the next patient? And I look at my medical aid information. It will show me what is the next patient. I can also right click here and say get the medical aid outstanding and see what is still outstanding on certain patients. Let's look on X. Let's see what is this patient's outstanding amount. There is 2,080 rand on the medical aid side, and a patient owes 4,000 rand. So let's take this one. The medical aid is going to only pay us 2,000 rand on Hicks. So there's my notes, and at any time you talk with the patient, please make your notes. And now the medical aid is only going to pay 2,000 rand. And there's a lot of billing still outstanding. That's why if you have a GP and you've got a lot of patients coming back, it's very nice to look with this tick that says suppress 0 items. Let's do this again, 2,000 rand. And I'm going to look at it. That's still what's outstanding. And the medical aid is only paying certain codes. So it's paying that. And there's still 1,200 rand left, so they're paying the 300, and they're paying the 2780, but they're only paying 907 rand next to the 2,300, because that arm sleeve is too expensive according to this medical aid, and they will only pay the patient 907 rand into your account. Patient must pay the difference, and this is where I will go and say okay, shift to patient, and the system will say okay, 1,432 rand 90 must be paid by the patient. What is the reason for that? No funds or not covered by plans, savings depleted, waiting period, scheme exclusion. Patient is responsible. So you select whatever the reasons, and whatever you select here can be printed on the statement, so the patient can exactly see why did the medical aid not pay this arm sleeve in total, because they say the patient is responsible for the rest. They will only pay 907.90. If there's no funds, you definitely want to mark that comment to make sure that the no funds print on the statement because the patient is liable for that account. Now I'm going to click on done. So now I've got still 1,900 left. So let's look at another account. Let's look at this MediHealth patient maybe. This one can maybe work. 6,000 outstanding on a Mediclaim. Yes, I'm going to say okay. And the rest is paid by the Mediclaim. I can use again all tomorrow, but remember the system will start at the top and move its way down. If the Mediclaim did not pay that, then I will shift it to the patient and I will tell why, no funds. And any other code, if that was not paid in total by the Mediclaim, then I will tell the reason, no funds. And I will mark it as a 0, no funds. If the Mediclaim did not pay it, I must indicate it so the patient know that the Mediclaim did not pay for this. So the Mediclaim only paid a partial of this account and all the rest has been shifted to the patient because there's no funds available anymore for payment. It's still on the same invoice. Oh, that one was wrong, so that one actually should have been 0. I'm just going to reflect it anymore. So all of those lines will be shifted to the patient, to the 1224, the 6 rand, the 222 and the 181842 will all be shifted to the patient. Because the Mediclaim did not pay those lines, because from there the funds were depleted, so everything passed on that same invoice will not be paid. And then I'm going to click on done. And now my last line should be 0. So the 6,000 plus the 2,000 plus the 1,900 equals back to the 10,000. This is where I go and say done, F2, F2, post. The same with the patient receipt, just press F2, F2, F2 4 times and then it will post the receipt. Now I know that those accounts have been paid, so if I look at Hicks, 4,000 is still outstanding. If I go into his account, I should be able to see the last payment that was done. And I can see the Mediclaim only paid 2,000 rand in total, but only 1,200 rand on this specific claim. And that claim, for instance, 31 paid 31, 300, 300, 300, 300. There's the 3,000 rand, and I only paid 1,200. The rest should have been moved to patient outstanding 1432.90. Also, from an account inquiry, at any time you should be able to shift any amount to the patient or shift it back to the Mediclaim, depending on what has happened via your remittance. Okay, so that was the remittance that I get manually from my patient, from the Mediclaim for my patient, and this I will capture in my MedDeb. So please make sure you go to your MedDebs, double click on that, and I go to my receipts and I choose medical aid item level. Fill in the total of your remittance advice, 10,000, 50,000, and then you will specify each patient, and in the third level you will load it to the specific lines. And please remember, from there you can shift it to the patient and give a reason why, or even write it off in total. If the Mediclaim short paid with 22 cents, you do not want to shift it maybe to the patient, just simply write it off. Okay, so that is my medical aid remittance and my medical aid receipts. Now we can quickly look at the cash register. I'm just going to talk about this. The cash register is also from your navigator. The reason why we use a cash register is with sites, like we said before, where you work with a lot of payments at your pay point. You do actually have a pay point, and you want to do a cash up at the end of the day to balance back to your float. So every user that works with that cash box will get a session. When they go home, they will close that session. The next morning, they will start with that session. They will capture all their cash and all their credit card payments. And at the end of the day, or when they leave, they will end their session. And the system will give them time then to count that slips and count their cash and fill it in under reconciliation option. And then we can quickly tell what amounts are still out. And they can then print this out and give it to any admin or the doctors at the end of the day, or the auditors. So the cash register works very nicely for that pay point scenarios where I work with a lot of cash payments or a lot of card payments where the patient must pay before they leave. And I want to cash up to the end of it. If you want more information, just please let our FCL know so we can set this up in your practice and explain the optionalities on this. And this is also where you can actually buy a slip printer and print actual receipts via a slip printer, and you can give that to the patients if it's necessary. Okay, so now we're going to look at our ERAs. So the ERA is very important. Also, I cannot show this on my training system. You need to see this live. So typically what we also arrange here is the moment you start working with GoodX and you signed up for your ERAs, the moment you receive your first ERA, please arrange that with your FCL. They will log in with TeamViewer 9 onto your computer, and they will give you training over the phone how to work with the ERAs more in detail. What I can show you is just how do I get to that functionality in GoodX. You go again to your MEDEPS, you go to your receipts, and you will see here Remittance Advice Manager. Here you will click on that. Actions will check for available ERAs, so any new ERAs will be imported onto this list. And here you will see Discovery, Bankmate, Bonitas, Gems, and all those remittances that were sent to you via email, you will now get into GoodX directly. And then you need to follow the processes and the steps here. The first step is to select your ERAs, and then you will click on Import your ERA, and then it will move from this New Remittance tab to the Imported tab. And then the system will show you here if that batch could be matched 100%. So you must first click on it, you must import your ERA, you can double click your ERA to see it, and it will show you that's 411 and what's the reasons for it. Then you can edit that ERA if it's not matched 100%, and then you can do your manual intervention where you can change the amounts and the accounts, however you would like to do it. It looks like the same receipt we've done a few minutes ago. And then eventually you will go and post your ERA. So there's 3 steps involved here. Although this comes in electronically directly from the medical aid, you still need to press the buttons. You still need to select your ERA, import the ERA. Once it's imported, it will tell you whether the batch process is 100% or 90% or 80% or 50%. If it's not 100%, it means it's manual intervention. It means most probably we will post something to your suspense account. We do not know where the money must be allocated to. So always edit a not 100% batch to confirm what we are going to do with that amount. Then if you edit it in that function, your FCL will give you more advanced training on how to edit those amounts and or accounts. And once you're happy with that allocation, then you just click on post. So where we now spend that 10,000, where we divide it into 5 or 7 patients, here you just actually have free clicks to post this batch. You must select the batch, import it, and then select the batch and click on post. It makes your remittances processing so much faster and so much easier. Please make sure when you get to this phase in your process and in your practice that you've contacted your FCL so we can log into your system and help you allocate your first ERAs so that you're happy to see how this works. You're more than welcome also to book additional training sessions for this in the future if you want more information or training on that subject. But please look at your training manual. There you will anyway see how the ERA might work, but please make sure your FCL then helps you from here on. Okay, so now we've loaded our patient receipt, we've loaded our remittances manually with our medical aid receipts, and now we looked at our cash register. We just explained what the cash register is about. So if you need this functionality, please contact us for more details on that. And then we looked at the ERA function. So please make sure you sign up for this ERA functionality depending on your discipline. Once it's signed, that emails will not be emailed to, that remittance will not be emailed to you anymore. It will go directly into GoodX. But you still need to post the remittance. We're almost at a point where everything can happen electronically, but in this scenario, you still need to submit your claims, you need to follow up your claims, you need to import your ERAs, and you still need to post your ERAs. You are still in control of what happens with your claims and your receipts. Now, like I said before, no journals. You've seen now in that receipt functions, you will only use a journal for write-offs or discounts or small amounts that has not been paid by the medical aid. And again,